to introduce you to a wonderful doctor, an internist, a general practitioner, and a friend to Cancer Schmancer. He is going to further deepen our understanding of how stress and particularly trauma can impact our health and well-being, and what other steps that we need to do when we recognize that we've been put in a traumatic situation, and how we can work against that in support of our overall health and well-being. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Horton. Hi, John.
Hi.
How are you? Come
great.
sit down.
Thank you.
Here, I guess here.
Okay.
Because they said I'm always sitting in this seat. All right, so thank you. Now, you know, I had a chance to talk to you and a couple of days ago, and one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is that I've had a few very traumatic experiences in my life. I was raped at gunpoint, and I did not really deal with it in a way that I might today. I kind of shoved it away, pushed it under the carpet, and went on with living my life. But then, about a decade later, what happened, I ended up being diagnosed with cancer. So I actually think that there was a connection with that, because I didn't understand that pain that I was experiencing due to the traumatic situation that I underwent was actually finding another way to express itself. Because, you know, you got to look at trauma and stress, and you got to let it out, and otherwise, you know, it's going to get trapped somewhere in your body and manifest in another way. What do you say to that, Doc?
Absolutely true, and I'm very grateful that you could be brave enough to talk about that here.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, I'm like an open book.
That's good. No, I mean, this fellow was talking about a heart attack. The finest cardiologist, I think everyone would agree, in LA is a fellow named Pete K. Shaw at Cedars-Sinai. He gave a talk about heart disease and the etiology of heart disease at USC to a group of doctors, and people got up afterwards on their feet and applauded. Have you ever seen doctors applaud another doctor?
No.
Doesn't happen. It was so brilliant, and afterwards I sidled up to him and I said, look, my friend Phil Gold is at the NIH in charge of neuroendocrinology, his lab. He feels that stress, chronic stress, is the #1 cause of heart disease. What do you think? He leans into me and goes, yeah, it's the main thing. And then twice I saw him again, and I said, well, what's new? He said, the Mediterranean diet is better than Lipitor, because we're talking about men's health.
You hear that?
And then the third time I saw him, he was talking about cardiac arrhythmias and such. And I said, you never talk about stress. He goes, you can't. No one will believe it. So
how it impacts your body.
In every cell of your body is conditioned to respond to the autonomic nervous system. That's the nervous system that happens out of our consciousness, okay? We have a voluntary nervous system. I decide to get up. Why did you get up? I don't know, it just happened. Now I'm gonna be quiet. I'm making more enzymes to digest the food, and I'm getting the cholesterol down, and I'm fixing my liver, and
you're not thinking about
nuts.
that.
No.
Right.
So the autonomic nervous system has two parts: the sympathetic, which everyone knows, the fight, flight, and the parasympathetic, which has to do with taking care of the inner milieu. This was Dr. Cannon talked about the wisdom of the body years ago. When I read it in medical school, it was an epiphany. So this stress system, the fight, flight system, is triggered by fear, frustration of need, and pain. And once it gets going, the structures in the brain that have to do with this are primitive. There's the amygdala, which is part of our reptilian brain. I mean, if you startle a reptile, it has no way of deciding whether you're good or bad. It just reacts. So that reptilian brain reacts. If there was a loud noise right now, a very loud noise, and all of a sudden we heard shots, and all of a sudden that glass was breaking and bullets were coming through, that system, 0 to 60.
I'd be out the door.
Yeah, fight, flight, or freeze. Freeze is just as important as fight flight. That's when you hunker down. You might be better hiding under that table.
Now, what is it doing to, you mentioned, endocrinology, right? The guy from NIH, didn't you say?
Right. So the two hormones of the stress system are adrenaline. That's what's happening when we fight flight from the gunshots. But now you hear that, your bank calls you, and there's some problems with the bank, and then there's some problems with your kid, and it's like, okay, you're not going to fight flight. You can't freeze. You have to persevere. So on the plains of Africa, perseverance for hundreds and thousands of years was maintaining our integrity physically. So starvation. So cortisol starts coming into the system.
We hear a lot about cortisol.
Causes inflammation. Cortisol in the system, you start putting on weight.
I have cortisol problems.
Yeah.
I do, because, they say that when you've been horrified, it kind of fries your adrenals, dims it. And so there isn't that control factor. If you get stressed, your cortisol levels are going to rise. I don't have the, thermostat that calms it down. I have to be aware that this is happening and actually kind of offset it.
That's true of everybody. Because the only way you can move out of the stress system, if you look at the stress system, it's like the lower gears of the car. We're not designed to live in the stress system.
Right.
It's an emergency system. We're designed to live in what some of us are calling a wisdom system. The wisdom system is like the higher gears of the car. And two parts to it. One are the qualities of our heart, the qualities of the spirit, you might say, our ability to love, our ability to be happy, our ability to feel content, our ability to have clarity, those qualities that allow us to move through our life from the heart. And then there are parts of the brain that will develop. Reasoning, knowing your own story, understanding time, distinctions between desire and need. I mean, the brain develops wisdom over time. Little children are lovely. They have that inner beauty, but they don't know anything about the world. And they're very
So they have a lot
jittery.
of heart, but not a lot of wisdom.
They're very jittery. They don't know what to do in lots of situations. And the brain doesn't really finish its development until we're in our late 20s, early 30s. So all the problems we see in adolescence, when I tell my adolescent patients, you don't have your whole brain, they look at me, I go, no. When you were 13, you didn't have your full size. You're 23. You got 6, 7 more years of brain development, so you're going to be able to understand stuff. So give yourself some time, because the brain evolves and the heart evolves with time.
So the balance of heart and wisdom, how do we do that on a regular basis?
Learning how to shift from stress to wisdom. If you move out of the stress system, the wisdom system will show up. The way to shift is to put the clutch in, which is stepping back. It's mindfulness. It's what
Mindfulness. You become aware that you're in a stressful situation.
Yeah, because stress doesn't feel good.
And we get stuck in that, and we have to be mindful to say, wait a minute, this is not serving me well, and then we get into our wisdom.
It shows up automatically. That's the beauty of it. Once you go into neutral, because we've talked about this a lot today, the body is designed to evolve. We evolve from crawling to walking. Incredible effort.
Yes.
Never felt we were failures. Just kept doing it. So we're designed to live in harmony with ourselves. We're designed to live in harmony with one another. We're designed to live in harmony with the environment. This is our design feature. We can all be, you might say, the Nelson Mandela of our own life. 29 years in prison. Comes out ready to form a government with the people that have put him in prison. I mean, we all have that potential.
So what would you say is the most, proactive thing this audience can take away from, your wealth of experience in terms of, stress management, heart, and wisdom?
Well, it has to do with cancer too, because we've heard about stress and cancer. It's a question of being conscious. That's the number one thing. If I want to be conscious and evolve, then I'm going to become aware when I'm being stressed. And I was driving here, and of course there was traffic. So a lot of decisions. It's okay. Am I going to get all wound up here? Or am I going to chill out? Am I going to enjoy the drive? How can you enjoy the drive? There's nothing to enjoy. I can put something on a tape. That's some nice music. I can enjoy that. So that choice, there's always choice, always.
I agree with that completely, and that's wonderful advice. It's mindfulness, really. I mean, I grew up with and hearing these things that, it's dog eat dog, and the bottom line is the buck, and, all's fair in love and war, and all this. And it's like, it ain't necessarily so, and none of that is serving us well. And I think that we have to be mindful that, we have to recognize when there's some, and we talked about this earlier, when there's a disturbance that's impacting us. And then we gotta be our own best friend and parent and higher self and say, Fran, take it easy now, because, you're gonna start getting those cortisol levels up, and that's not going to serve you well. So let's kind of chill a little bit and reduce and relax and amp up on the antioxidants, and remember what Dr. Horton said about using our wisdom, listening to our heart, and being mindful. Don't only feel the feeling. Be the mindfulness behind the feeling to question, what is this? Where is this coming from? And then gauge whether you're going to keep going in that direction or you're going to kind of dial it back. And I think road rage is a perfect example, because when I'm stuck in the car, I see it as an opportunity to just stand still and look around, because that's all you can really do, is use everything as an opportunity. And that's what we all have to do. Even negative things can be turned into positive, and it'll impact you in a much healthier way. We're all trying to just stop the disturbances from creating dis-ease. So you must be the thermostat of your structure, which is your body.
Exactly. The book that we wrote, The Inner Game of Stress, with Tim Galway, who's a very famous sports coach and business consultant, the first tool, the mother of all tools, what all the corporate people remember when he's finished his seminars, is stop. When you start to feel uncomfortable, you're moving into the stress system, because it doesn't feel good. The wisdom system feels good. That's nice. That's a good design. So when you start feeling like, step back, think, what's going on? Something is causing fear. There's a frustration of a need, or there's pain. Once you see what that is, and then you start to organize, how am I going to resolve that? Because we're not designed to live in that. That's where the courage comes in. Last fellow was talking about courage. So much courage here today. We need the courage to say, okay, I got to resolve this. One of the people that I've learned a lot from about trauma was a psychiatrist that sees Iraq veterans right when they're waking up from amazing, huge trauma. And he does a list. Okay, so what is? Okay, you've got head trauma, you've lost a leg, you're not going to be going back to the troops, your friends are dead. Now what? Everything. What? Now what? What? Now what? What? Now what? What? Now what? Because you don't want to engage.
Get stuck.
Exactly.
That's now what? Now what? What? Now what? I love that. So simple, but yet we have to constantly ask ourselves that. All right, well, you're just the greatest. We have to move on with our program.
Thank you.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Wonderful. What? Now what?